Hi there, Gary. This is a response to your golf video. So I'm responding to your putting with my driving. I'm actually on the M6. Yeah, I'm on the M6 here, heading down towards Cornwall. The camera is actually fitted on the steering wheel, so if I do this, it'll wobble about a bit. Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I found interesting, I mean lots of things I find interesting in all your videos, Gary, as you know. I very rarely get a chance to respond, but one of the things that jumped out at me this time, but I guess because I've been thinking about dialogue and I've been thinking about the way that people talk to each other and the way that different people can talk to each other in ways that allow for, I don't know, interesting things to happen, I suppose, is your use of a word to describe some of my recent videos, which I would agree with, and that word was obtuse. You mentioned, well, ages ago you mentioned that you found some of my videos obtuse, and I know what you mean. You know, I find some of my own videos obtuse, to be honest, and I find other people's videos obtuse. Occasionally yours, but not very often. So I kind of know what you mean, but I don't exactly know what you mean. I don't exactly know what I mean, or I didn't, but I've got a better beat in it now, I think. Because you see, what I'm thinking of here is, you know, I've had experiences listening to someone's conversation or listening to someone's video or whatever, and my response to that is, oh yeah, that's obtuse, you know what I mean? So I've got a similarity of response. I know what the meaning of the word obtuse is in terms of what it feels like, what its effects are, what kinds of situations provoke that, you know, that sense. But I've been trying to think of a better, I don't know, a kind of more nuts and bolts way of understanding it. It's just, I mean, it probably won't be of interest to you at all, Gary, but one of the things I quite enjoy doing, and which just helps me think clearer, because it's just the way my brain works, is I can think clearer if I get really inside certain words and get visual images out of them, you know, visual, ideally moving images, which really represent that word, or represent the idea. And then I understand it better, I think. It just seems to work better. The machinery of my brain seems to work better if I can reduce it to a set of visible cogs, you know. And I've been thinking about this word obtuse, or the idea of something being obtuse, and what kind of a cog that is in the whirrings of the brain. Because obtuse, I'm thinking, is a term from geometry. I mean, it's probably got other meanings as well, but it's a term from geometry to describe an angle that's got, you know, the confluence of 2 points, that's got of 2 lines, that's got an angle of greater than 90 degrees. I think I'm right in saying. If the two lines come together quite sharply, less than 90 degrees, that's an acute angle, and if it's greater than 90 degrees, that's an obtuse angle. So it's like that, you know, as opposed to being pointy like that, it's like that. Like top of a roof, something like that. That's an obtuse angle. So I've been trying to think if that understanding helps me to get inside the word obtuse, so I can use it better, more accurately. And the first thing I thought of, which I think is wrong, but I'll share it anyway. The first thing I thought of is, well, if something's obtuse, then it's blunt. You know, an acute angle is a sharp thing, isn't it? You know, a knife blade has an acute angle at the point, or I don't know, a dagger or a sword or the pointy bit at the front of an aeroplane. Anything like that has to cut through something is acute, and conversely, something that's obtuse is necessarily blunt. So I did think about that for a while. I thought, is that what this is about? Is when I'm using the word like obtuse, or when you use it, or somebody else uses it, is there an image of bluntness? But I don't think it's that, because I don't know. That doesn't feel right. Because something acute, which would be sharp, would cut into you when they're speaking. That would be the sense. And something that's blunt, that's obtuse in the sense of it being blunt, which might bruise you or it might bump off you, but it wouldn't penetrate. And that, it's interesting, but I don't think that captures obtuseness in the way that I'm experiencing it and you might be. So the other thing I've been thinking about is, you know, is what the look of those angles is. And it really relates, the image I've got here actually relates to what I'm doing now, which is driving on a motorway. or at least joining motorways. Because when you join a motorway, you come up, or I don't know what you call me. What do you call motorways? Freeway. When you join a freeway, you join the freeway at an acute angle, don't you? You know, there's a slip road that leads into the motorway, and it just comes to a point. You know what I mean? It merges perfectly with the flow of traffic, so that when you come down the acute angle of a slip road onto a motorway or a freeway, you're going down that acute angle and merging with the traffic. If you had a slip road that was at an obtuse angle, you know, that came at it like from the side or at greater than 90 degrees, you'd be knackered really. You wouldn't be able to join the traffic. It would be chaos. And someone would probably get hurt, and there certainly wouldn't be any kind of confluence where all the traffic was moving smoothly in the right direction. That's an image. So if I can just apply that image to conversation and dialogue, if someone's speaking obtusely, then they're not coming down the slip road of a conversation and merging their conversation with the conversation that's happening. Or it's not like two streams of conversation that merge, you know, that match pace with one another, and that you know, obey the same rules of the road and then merge. It's not like that. An obtuse conversation is one where, you know, someone just comes in from the side, totally oblivious to what's happening on the road already, and perhaps following completely different rules of the road. And in conversation, that's the parallel. And an acute entry into a conversation or a dialogue would be one in which the participants, you know, perhaps after a bit of initial jostling, you know, marry their forms of speech and the way they talk and their understandings and the kinds of rules of engagement that they have. They would match those up so that the dialogue continues, or there's an unbroken stream of really optimised dialogue going on. An obtuse dialogue is one where someone's proceeding in their knowledge base and how they talk and how they think, and then someone just crashes in from the side at an angle of greater than 90 degrees, and you know, the flow either stops or is broken down or is held up or causes a jam or causes an accident. Not a lot of understanding, that's for sure. So yeah, so that's probably not interested in this at all, Gary. But that's how I'm kind of visualising. That's what I'm visualising now when you say that my videos are obtuse. And I think you're right. I try not to be, and it's always going to be a bit subjective in that some people's streams are going to be different to others. But certainly my ambition in all conversation really is to try to be acute about that, to try to pace my conversation to the conversation, and my expectation is also that, you know, who I'm talking to would be similarly engaged in the desire to get an orderly traffic flow going, you know, which might involve a bit of jostling, it might involve a bit of stepping on the gas occasionally, but same rules of the road, you know what I mean? Anyhow, here we go. Slow lorries for 3/4 of a mile. Bit of a hill here, I'm going to go out into the fast lane, get past these trucks. Speak to you later, mate.